Hello, everybody. I'm Micah Miranda, Economic Development Director with the City of Chandler. Today, we're joined by my spiritual advisor, Mr. Jim Goulka from Arizona Technology Investors, one of our leading angel investment groups here in the state and throughout the Southwest, to talk about what's going on in the startup community, specifically related to angel investments, venture investments, and so forth. So, Jim, take a second to introduce yourself.
Thanks. Thank you, Mike. I'm really glad to be here. My name is, as Mike said, is Jim Goulka. I lead a group called Arizona Tech Investors. We are 100 men and women who invest our own money in early stage startup companies. Most of them are Arizona companies. A bunch of them are in Chandler. We've invested in about 70 companies over the last 10 years. So we're very active investors, investing in software, semiconductors, medical devices, diagnostics, that sort of thing. So all very much disruptive, high growth companies. Some are successful and some aren't.
Well, again, thanks for joining us here. As you know, Chandler's been committed to assisting and growing technology-oriented businesses for a long time. Mm-hmm. But given what's going on in today's business world and climate in general, what sort of impact, if any, will COVID-19 have on the startup investment climate here within the greater Phoenix region?
Oh, some of this is endemic to this kind of a situation for the whole country. And that is, we are in a difficult time and the times are uncertain. Stock market plunged today on the news that oil prices are now negative. That creates all kinds of uncertainty in the general economy, and startups being at the highest risk end of the economy because everything they don't have history means that everything's affected by that and at a greater level. So what that means is if you've got investments in the stock market and you see your value, your portfolio go up and down in value, you're going to be a little more conservative about what it is that you do. And that conservatism flows through all kinds of things. So for us, that means a bunch of our members are being very circumspect about their investing. That's a nice way of saying some aren't going to be doing it for the next 6 months. Others are investing. I mean, for example, I've actually written 4 checks in the last few weeks on different companies, Arizona companies, because I think there are real opportunities, but on the other hand, the checks are smaller than they had been in the past. So the immediate impact is funding is going to be harder, both because some investors are going to sit on the sidelines and others are going to be writing smaller checks. You see that even more intensely in the venture world, because venture investors are typically come in after other investors, and we're seeing a lot of companies coming back to us to say, I need a bridge. I was talking to a venture capital firm about doing a new investment. We were halfway through it, but the virus hit. No one's working. Sales are being, deferred, and they don't want to come in as new investors. So the companies are coming back to us for extensions of the deals that we did last year, which is fine, and we're doing those kinds of things. But it does mean that money is a little scarcer. Now, for us in particular in the Valley, we've got a bunch of different kinds of companies. If you're the CEO of a software company, you can probably do an awful lot of that at home. So social distancing has a relatively minor impact on how you actually build your business. On the other hand, if you're doing Internet of Things or creating sensors or chips or medical devices where it's necessary to get your people together in a single place to actually physically collaborate, that's a lot harder. And that means that those businesses like those are hurting much more because you can't get your people together. So you get the kind of the issues about being together matter a lot. And then the question about what are your domains that you're serving matter. We've got a handful that are in the serving the travel business in one way or another. Well, those are really hurting because nobody's traveling. No one goes to a hotel by choice today. So that means those businesses are laying off people or figuring out how to minimize the damage, recognizing that once they get past this problem, people will start traveling again. So it varies based on the business. Fortunately, we in the Valley have companies doing all these different kinds of things, but you have to watch what's the business in order to make a judgment.
Yeah, that's a lot of good information for our viewers out there. And I think one of the things that we're always asked is, during times like this, during this crisis, what are a couple things that founders can do that will be of significant value to both their team and their startup and to their investors?
Mm-hmm.
So what founders at this time?
There are some real basic things, and you see how they work in all these different companies that are coming back to us. They're talking to us. The first that any founder has to deal with is taking care of their team. I mean, the business is the team. And while founders may think they're the most important person, they may be, but if they've invested in the training of other people to actually deliver the product, to sell the product, or whatever, if they're not careful about taking care of as many of their team members as they can, the business will die. Because there are, people will leave now, people will leave later. If you're a CEO and you're not careful about your people, some may stick around, but they'll leave as quickly as they can when things get better. So the first thing really is take care of the team as much as possible. What that translates into is simply, it's better to keep people at a lower compensation level than it is to cut half or a quarter of the staff and create bleeding and people picking up two people's jobs instead of one for the same compensation. The classic thing to do is a CEO takes the biggest haircut in compensation. I was talking to somebody who told me that her company laid off 25% of their people, and the CEO's compensation, which is in the seven-figure range, has not changed at all. That's going to have long-term negative impact on the enthusiasm of people who work for that company. In comparison to the company where the CEO says, everybody may take a haircut here. I'm taking the biggest one. I'm going from X dollars to zero. Big deal. The third part of that is, if people are going to be reduced compensation, you can make it up with options. Cause people to say, look, this is tough time. We want you to stay through the tough times, and for that, we'll give you rewards in the longer term. So we're going to be granting some more options. So those are all in the, take care of your people. Make sure that they have the opportunity to take care of, if they have kids, their kids, if they get sick, that they're covered, because the team is the business. And when the virus goes away and you're trying to restart it, if you've got unhappy people, you're going to lose them rather than have them being fully committed to your business. The second thing is to communicate with everybody as much as you can. I hear from virtually all of our portfolio companies very regularly. Here's what we're doing to address the issue. And some of them say, well, we thought we could get by with X, now we have to do 2X. So keeping people informed, no matter who they are in your part of your whole sort of system of business, your employees, your contractors, your spouses, your family, and your investors, are really an important thing. And then the third is make sure you don't run out of cash.
Yeah.
And that means not being as optimistic as you were in January about what your company was worth. Having money, that old saw about having a decent share of a small number or a big number rather, is much better than having a very large percentage of a small number. And companies that are not prepared to understand that their company's value today is less than it was in January, are probably not going to raise money. And if they run out of money, they're not better off.
Well, that's a good segue to my next question. In your experience, the companies you're partnering with, how have they utilized any of the federal stimulus programs, whether it's PPP or EIDL?
All of them have done as much as they can. And they were instantaneous. The good news is virtually all the ones that we've been talking to have been instantaneous in getting their oar into the water. You're now reading about all kinds of people who were shut out because they didn't get their applications in fast enough, and allocations of very large sums of money to big companies that should not have gotten it. So driving for that is important, and it looks like most people have really been very proactive in doing it.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And last question here is, what sort of guidance, advice, resources do investment groups like yourself or those apart from ATI have for startups to best navigate the current situation?
Well, the first reaction I had would have been to say, well, you talk to all the advisors that are out there, the incubators and whatever, but they're in the same boat. They're not around. Some of them are trying to do advising, via Zoom, and that's fine. The biggest issues really are about nurturing the team, about having reality, about your fundraising and the ability to get back into business. So there's nothing really magical about things being new. What we're really dealing with is an acceleration of the issues that all startups have to deal with anyway, just being compressed in time.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. We know you're extremely busy, you got a lot going on, and we really do just appreciate all the support you've provided the City of Chandler Economic Development over the course of many years, whether it was through our Angel Investment Initiative to identify, activate, and educate new angels around the valley, or support you've provided to the Chandler Innovations Incubator. You've been a major supporter of growing the tech community here in Chandler. We really do appreciate it.
Well, Micah, thank you. It's been terrific, and it's great to be working with a city that really gets this stuff.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have the leadership that is supportive of our endeavors. So with that, again, thank you. To our viewers, if you have any questions, check out chandleraz.gov/COVID-19 for business resource assistance and other pieces of information related to the current pandemic. So take care, be safe out there.
Thanks. So long.